This was an absolutely stellar sunset that I had to capture. I used a single glass optic and it was bright, so I shot at a fairly low ISO. ISO was actually 100, so I didn't have much noise, but the camera did a very poor job of exposing the image. The highlights are blown out, and overall the image is kind of blah. That is what I ended up with. And let me dissect this to show you exactly what steps I took. The first thing I did was in the basic panel, I decreased my exposure and increased my contrast so the silhouettes would stand out. That's what I wanted, was a silhouette look. I adjusted my whites and my blacks, and notice the finished image, I no longer have any blown out highlights. I didn't do anything with presence, but I did do something with split toning. I added a yellow tone to the highlights and a violet purple look to the shadows. And that's basically all I did, with the exception of detail. I did do some sharpening. I'm going to hold down the Option key so you can see exactly what I did. I sharpened it to 77. I increased the detail so the pilings would stand out. And I did some masking so only the details would be sharpened. And the last thing I did to make this image pop, I could have added a vignette to it, but by decreasing the exposure, I've kind of got an automatic vignette. And your eye is drawn to the sun. But I had these marvelous angel beams that I wanted to highlight. So I used a Localized Adjustment brush to do this. Notice I have two instances of the Localized Adjustment brush. The first one I used to highlight the angel beams. And what I did, I'm going to press O so the overlay is on, and notice I painted over the angel beams. And what I did to highlight these, I increased the exposure a little bit to make the angel beams pop. I increased clarity and sharpness. And the second Localized Adjustment brush I used was on the sun, because the sun was blown out. And I decreased the exposure. If you look at before and after for the Localized Adjustment brush, you can see just what a difference it made in this image alone. So your process will be different for each image, and basically you've got to analyze each image and determine what are the important parts of the image. I was photographing a sunset, but to me the most important part of the image was number one, the setting sun, and number two was the pier. So the pier showed up as a silhouette, and those were the factors I used to process my image.